Welcome to the Art of Making Home, where we unveil the secrets of the home building industry from a contractor's point of view with Sandro of Abstract Homes.
Hello, beautiful people. It's Sandro from Abstract Homes and Renovations. So glad you can join us today on the podcast. Today's episode is going to be on insulated concrete forms and energy efficiency with Mr. Anthony Vermeulen. Thank you, Anthony, for joining on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start with what are ICFs. I think a lot of people don't know what they are. They probably, some guys that are listening don't even have any clue what an ICF is or what it does.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, ICFs stand for Insulated Concrete Forms. Now, I'll simplify it completely. It's not rocket science, because if it was, I wouldn't be involved in this call. But insulated concrete forms are essentially this: stay-in-place forms that insulate the structure. That's it.
Right.
If you're familiar with formwork, ours is just insulated.
Right. So, being a builder, I've used insulated concrete forms before. So if a person was to look at a foundation of a home, right,
mm-hmm.
and where you would use plywood. Form plywood,
right,
to be on both sides of the wall to hold the concrete in as it's being poured, and then you strip the old forms off, and now you got a concrete wall.
Yes.
So now with the energy efficiencies that we have to achieve in the new homes, we have to insulate.
Mm-hmm.
So you can insulate that concrete wall, which we have to do, and we have to insulate it, and there's a bunch of work that we have to do that way. With the ICFs, we can just leave them in place, and now we've got an insulated wall.
Absolutely correct.
Right. So, so in my mind, that's it. I think it's a great way. We're not using plywood anymore, so we're getting rid of that. There's a lot of less waste in it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just kind of what if we talk about the construction of the block itself and how it's made. I think people really don't know. We talk about energy efficiency and stuff like that, and I've heard that a lot of people talk about or saying, "Oh, I don't want to use those. The ants eat the foam." Right? I hear that quite often. Right there. What's your response to that?
Well, the ants in particular. Well, the ants don't understand that there's no food source there, but they go there anyway. Now, commonly, what you're doing when this will sort of lend itself to people using it or unfamiliar with ICFs. You treat it the same way as you would a regular foundation. You're going to put your peel and stick membrane on the outside,
right,
and cover that with a dimple board for drainage and against to protect the peel and stick against the backfill, and then you fill it up.
Right.
Now, we don't have a termite problem here, but in some of our customers in the southern states do, and the peel and stick acts as a termite barrier.
Right. So that's a good point too, and that definitely would help prevent the again, you say they don't really know that it's not a food source. They just eat it and start chewing it up and spitting it out,
right,
more or less, right? And that's what we've done typically. We've always put a peel and stick on there. A lot of times I think, I don't think that it's suggested to do that, but I've seen guys where they haven't done that, and that's probably where they've come into the problem of ants infesting in eating ICF. It's not very common, but here we have to, because we need to. We got a lot of water, and I think when they first came out, we did have that issue, but now they're saying, okay, hey, no, we got to put a peel and stick on the front face of this. We have to put a dimple mat, so that'll help. Obviously, talk about air and moisture getting through into that block, into the concrete, and through the other side.
Sure.
So that seals that off, and it also sheds the water as well.
It does.
And stops ants from eating it.
And anyone in the ICF game, or even in the construction game like you have a best practices that I will suggest to a builder or customer using these best practices. We have you can find our installation manual online. This is how we suggest that you do it. If you use the material and you decide not to put peel and stick on it, as we suggest, we hope for the best.
Right.
But as an ICF manufacturer, we need to make sure that the process it's constructed correctly so that we have less issues, or hopefully no issues.
Exactly. Yeah. I personally really like the ICFs when you get your, because you have to achieve a certain R value within your assembly, and it's quite easily done with an insulated concrete form right off the bat, so you don't have to. So, without getting too technical and stuff like that, how would you describe an ICF block to somebody that doesn't know really, what it is and how it goes together, which I think is a really important factor, and especially now that we're having troubles with skilled labor and getting skilled labor, right? So I look at that aspect of it, and the really is simplicity of putting it together that almost anybody can do.
Sure.
Pretty much anybody can do.
Yep.
So maybe just expand on that a little bit.
Well, Quadlock is one ICF. There are a number of ICFs. I like to say that we all do the same thing. We just go about it in different ways.
Right.
Right. There are block systems out there that use two panels. Some of them may be 4 feet or 8 feet long. They use two panels. They're bound together by a high-density plastic or polyethylene. And in many cases, they have left and right corners. Now, speaking for myself, Quadlock is a panel system. So the panels are separate, and four basic components. There are track that goes along your footing, which the panels fit into. Okay. There are ties which bridge the gap between those panels in varying thicknesses. There are corner brackets that go on top of that, and I should say that the panels differ in thicknesses depending on the R value that you're looking for.
Right now, what's the R value necessary for that wall assembly?
For the assembly with Quadlock
right now in the building code,
22.
Right.
Yes.
An effective R value of R22.
Effective.
And what size of block is that?
That would be a 2-inch, yes, 2 1/4 inch.
So that's 2 1/4 of foam on the outside and on the inside, if you want to call it that way. So all the way around. Okay.
Yeah, and I should say that because we have 3 different panel thicknesses, 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch. So you can use those in a combination with other ones to get up to R59. Now, locally, we're probably not going to shoot for R59.
Right.
But our bread and butter, really, what the builders like is our R28, which is a 3-inch on either side. R28 effective for as long as you own your block. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So understanding, like, people maybe not understand the R values. So maybe just kind of a brief maybe description on what is an R value.
R value is the... Now, I knew you were going to ask me this because we always throw the term R value around. It's an insulation value, and it based on the temperature moving through a wall assembly, correct? And how high that R value is prohibits the heat from escaping.
Right.
Yeah. Is that how you would call it? Well,
yeah, so either heating or cooling, right? So, if you're cooling in the summertime, you want to be able to keep that coolness inside, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically a transferring through that assembly, and if it can slow it down, the greater the R value, the more it slows that transfer of cold or heat in either direction that it's going in. So very important, obviously. Especially now that we have to achieve those certain R values, in the homes, and it's just getting more stringent as we even as we talk about it. So, so why would I use an ICF as opposed to a conventional system? We talked a little bit about the R values, and it's already built in. You have that.
Sure.
So that cost wise, I know that once the lumber prices a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, got really super high.
What a year!
Actually, I know a year for you guys sold a lot of product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it was a little bit less expensive, right? To that way. So maybe you just touch on the advantages of ICFs as opposed to conventional.
Well, here's what I like to say, because in a lot of cases in the construction industry or in industry, we're looking at the bottom line, right? What is the I'm building conventionally. This is what it's going to cost me. Let's say $9,000 at the bottom line of when you get it from you. Then you talk to Anthony, and his comes up as $9,500. Human nature is going to say, I'll take the $9,000. I'll save the $500, right? But what you don't see on these is time on the job, right? When you're using ICFs and any ICF, you have the ability to maybe cut down on your crew size a little bit. And you touched on it before, the form ply that you put up, you don't have to strip those forms. Okay. You're also not going to backframe that basement wall with your 2x4s and put your insulation in there. It's already insulated. I know with mine and several other ICFs, you can put your drywall right up against that foam.
Right. So that's another key point you brought up. In the block itself, there's polyethylene tabs that you can screw. Absolutely. Whatever you want on either side.
Absolutely. I can't remember the rating on ours, but we can apply stone depending on what your screw pattern is. You can apply some pretty heavy stuff to it. I think it's important, so overall, just to say that if we can save you, or if ICFs can save you 1 or 2 days on the job site, what is that worth to you?
Right.
And you don't see that when it says 9,000, you don't see that. So it's important to talk to your ICF person or the person who you deal with and talk to them about the time you can save on the job site.
And the fact that, like when you're doing a conventional system, and not that you shouldn't have anybody that knows how to put the ICFs together, but, it's a lot more skilled in building that form, because it's a lot more things can go wrong with a conventional system, as I know, as opposed to ICFs. Like it's, if you just a couple of key little easy things to do as far as putting it together, that you're not going to get the form blowing on you.
Right. Well, I mentioned before best practices. I've worked with builders who have used our system for 20 years and 30 years. I'm hands off. I don't need to tell these guys anything. They've got their own secrets and shortcuts they do. Out of the box, out of the gate, we recommend that you talk to us. We can be on site if you like,
right?
And follow the installation manual. After that, if you want to mess around with it, that's fine. One of the things we find about our system that is great, it goes on a sort of 2-foot running bond pattern. So you'll have your first course or first row at the bottom. Second course will be 2 feet off of that. So it's sort of like a log cabin situation. But the third course is the same as the first course. The second course is the same as the fourth. Once you're at three rows, it's pretty much just a rhythm to keep it going. Right.
Right. So you can put them together probably. Well, I mean, I've done it myself. It's you can put it together so much faster than a conventional system, and have it done and ready. So it's almost like a modular, like we talk about it being like a Lego set for adults, right? Sure. For the construction guy, these are kind of cool, and you can throw. They're not that heavy either.
I like that you brought that up, because, and I've worked on sites before, and I've done some. You wouldn't know by my hands, but I've done some labor before. Probably your crew's probably likely to get there on site the next day, a little quicker if they haven't been throwing around 3/4-inch form ply in the rain the night before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's little things along the way. It means different things to different people, but I think that's an important point.
Yeah. It definitely is. Again, it's 3/4-inch plywood, like a full sheet of that form ply that's soaked down with a release on it.
Yeah.
Quite heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're packing those around all day too, for sure. Yeah.
Not a lot of fun.
A big deal. So I see it as an advantage to the environment as well, right? Because you're not using that creosol or the release on the form ply. Like you're not throwing away, because a lot of times those forms are pretty much done. If you're lucky, you can save a couple of full sheets and use them on another job, but you're wasting a lot of material, really.
And I think that over time, those forms, wherever you're renting from, they get beat up and battered around.
Yeah, so you're not getting a good job, from that point of it. So I see that as environmentally friendly.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
The methods and the simplicity of putting it together is an advantage. So I'm just going over some key takeaways like that. Feel free to jump in there and summarize, I guess, from your point of view, what that looks like. Well, key point takeaways. Yeah.
You mentioned waste. 37 years you've been to a number of job sites, right? So the bin that's full of material at the end of the job site?
Terrible.
That costs money. Every piece in there costs something. I mentioned ours is a panel system rather than a block system. Well, the advantage of that is when we estimate it, and our dealers and our partners estimate it, we estimate it with a 3% waste factor for offcuts and things of that nature.
Right.
But being a panel system, you can take any piece that is 1 foot long or greater and use that back in the wall as long as you bridge that joint with a tie. So, we find that waste is cut down quite a bit. We know there's going to be bins on the job site full of stuff. We just want as little part of that, of the waste as possible.
Right. So that also leads into me, we thought about when we're designing the home, obviously a lot of times in Vancouver, like you're squeezing that home on as much every single millimeter you can to get it out there. But we also take into consideration block size.
Right.
So you're not cutting if you don't have to cut. Right. So that's only a couple inches here or there.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing so that you can try to minimize the waste even by that. Even a sheet of plywood, because you're going to get an 8-foot sheet of plywood. So it's the same deal with the blocks, right? You size the house closest to what you can get, but that'll actually have almost no waste on certain areas like plywood and the blocks, etc.
Well, what we suggest when you're there's sort of tools that we recommend in our install manual. One of them is a Sharpie, because when you're moving, we start the system in the corner and we move towards the common seam in the middle, right? So remember I said first course, third course, so on and so forth. So you're going to have a common seam, but you're going to have different cuts there. So what we recommend is any off cuts that you have are greater. Mark down, let's say that it's only going to be a 32-inch panel that you have to cut. Well, anything you have greater than 32 laying around the job site, just mark 32 on it, cut it as such, stack it right where that common seam goes, and bang, bang, bang. You're not running around the site, tripping over things looking for something that would fit this size.
Right.
Got it sorted out.
Yeah, so there's really a lot of advantage to it. And that when thinking about energy savings, right, as we were always talking about that, and we know that the cost of energy is going to be going up, right? We're pretty good right now here in BC. Other parts of the country probably not great. Their energy costs, they get it from nuclear in Toronto, part of their system, their grid and stuff like that. So looking at, real examples of energy savings, if you guys put like a number or, percentage of savings energy-wise by using the ICF on...
I hate this answer, but yes and no, because every job is different.
Right.
I have a client in Aldergrove who he just builds a 3-foot stem wall on all his homes, and out of ICF for the rest it goes up with. Now, what he finds is even from that, he gets an energy savings wherein maybe he can get away with something else in the upper floors, right? Now, conversely, if you're going full ICF, floors, walls, the whole 9 yards, it can go up to 40% of energy savings.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. And you don't always get, we like to have relationships with the homeowners as well after the fact. So we know this, right? Because like I said, ICF means different things to different people. It means something to you, the home builder,
right?
The homeowner,
right?
The architect, the engineer. There are many people involved in this. And I think it means different things to all of them.
Right. Can you build the whole house with ICF?
Yes. Yes, you can. Oh, can I? No, yes, for sure. And I think what's important here, you mentioned our neighborhood and our sort of climate. I started with Quadlock. This Monday, it'll be 11 years. So I've been with them. I started as an inside sales rep. And what I did is I worked with representatives across North America. So 5 or 6 sales reps. So Miami, Texas, Eastern Canada, and and I sort of mapped out on Google where the ICFs are being used.
Right.
And built ours, right?
Yep.
What I found is the least uptake was right here in the Pacific Northwest. We're pretty mild climate, right? We don't need to super insulate a whole lot of stuff. But what I found is that the efforts here to save energy go a long way with ICFs. My dad used to, you're a father, when someone turns the dial on the thermostat, and it doesn't matter where you are in the house, what's happened. ICFs will help you move that as little as possible throughout the year.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah. So that's great. So, I mean, those are the key takeaways, I think, is just energy savings to me is a big deal, and I think that and better for the environment overall because you're not wasting a whole bunch of products. So those are some key takeaways. Anthony, it's been great talking to you about this. Thank you for all your insights into that. For the listeners out there, please subscribe to our channel. So you can get us on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your social media. Please leave reviews for us. We just want to make sure that you guys are, are getting value from our podcasts. Again, thanks, Anthony.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll have Anthony's link on the website here. And if you want to talk to him about ICFs, I'm sure he'd be glad to talk to you about it.
Sure thing.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Art of Making Home with Sandro Stefanucci from Abstract Homes. Listen to the podcast on all your favorite players as well as here on YouTube.